So back to John Ebert. He mentions in Part 9, Volume 2 of Spengler's book, The Decline of the West, about comparative mythology. And he does a couple of minutes about Joseph Campbell. And the key that I heard Campbell talk about was that there are classical mythologists and comparative mythologists. And the classical mythologists keep everything separate, keep all the different cultures and myths from those cultures separate, as if they are completely unrelated. They have nothing in common. And then the comparative compares. Says, well, this is what they have in common, that's what they have in common. And Campbell considered himself a comparative mythologist. In Spengler, he speaks of the morphology of religion, as if religion was not fixed and steadfast in time, but developed in time. And though there are those perspectives, those that hold true to a fixed and steadfast nature of a dogma and creed that is never changing and always just so. Generally speaking, if we can look back on life, we can look back on the last 1,000 years, 2,000 years of the development of different religions and whatnot, and then compare them. We can see a definite growth process and development. Now, this can be very destabilizing because many of us in this rugged world that we live in need something solid. That's neither here nor there. A loss of faith, that kind of thing occurs. But this developmental process, this morphology, is a very interesting idea to me because I find it very telling in my relationships, in that I grow and change. I have definite aspects of my character that come to the foreground, and some of them can be very compelling for me to fully develop right to the end. So I could be one type of character for a decade, and another type of character another decade, and another type of character another decade. And this does not make me schizophrenic or crazy. In fact, in Part 9, Volume 2 of Ebert's Spengler, Ebert on Spengler, he mentions how the intellect at a certain development of civilization can get so highly developed that it looks at anybody with faith as crazy. And then all these mental categories, these categories of mental disorder arise, which is very telling because just last week or before Ebert, I was talking about the DMS-4, the psychological disorders set down for insurance purposes. Everything allotted, it's got its own name. It's got its own category and everything. All these mental disorders are all perfectly set up in this order and everything. And I find it really interesting because I usually tap in. My intuition usually taps into things before they happen. And if I just let myself talk, then lo and behold, within a few weeks, something comes up that affirms what I was talking about, or is an example of. Usually in the affirmative of my intuition. Lucky guess, or whatever, is what I always call it. But where was I going? What was I saying? Oh, the morphology. So the development of my relationships, I realize is very difficult for a great many people to follow. There's this people want to know what they expect from a person. This is very important for them. And for me, I seem to have this ability, generally speaking, to go deeper and see a deeper core stuff. And the surface things are different aspects of that core stuff. So I can have, let's say, at the core, a fear of death. And so for one decade, I can process this fear of death one way. In another decade, I can process this fear another way. And, in my 30s, another way. In my 40s, another way. And it's not necessarily driven by the environment. In fact, the environment needs to conform to what's actually transpiring within inside me. And if it's not, then I need to change the environment. And usually what I mean by environment are my relationships. And it's not that I want to change my relationships, it's that they usually go by the wayside. Others just, I don't know, I don't know what others think of me so much. I try to talk to them about it. I try to, be open and whatnot. But yeah, I don't like pushing it. I don't like making it happen. I think that there's a lot of magic and wonder and awe in any relationship where instead of being too self-conscious of who we are and what we're doing, but to let who we are and what we're being unfold. So I just thought I'd share that today. It's really interesting to me, this time consciousness and time-oriented consciousness and space-oriented consciousness, and also the development of self and how these can be reflective of an inner experience of the building up of self or the dissolving of self. Self becoming too personally self-important or too personally unimportant. Have a good day.